or a 3-minute video to be eligible to win. The Students of Integrity Scholarship aims to recognize high school juniors and seniors who personify ethics in the real world. You only have until March 16th to apply, so visit bbb-scholarship.org for all the details.
I have Dr. Stephen Hardy here from Northwest Plastic Surgery Associates. Dr. Hardy, it seems like seeking surgical or non-invasive solutions to problems like sagging skin and wrinkles is becoming much more common for both women and men. What questions should folks be asking when researching these procedures?
You know, the most important things to know about your plastic surgeon are if they're certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery and if they're a member of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. I take great pride in being a board-certified plastic surgeon for 25 years and having been able to provide this care to the community in Western Montana for the past 20 years.
How does someone know what kinds of procedures are best for their goals?
Well, we're all different, and we have different goals and different expectations. In a consultation, we thoroughly review the medical history and those goals and expectations, and at that point set up a personalized plan of care.
Contact Northwest Plastic Surgery Associates, nwpsa.com, or call 728-3811.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Tutela Nuanez, Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Touchdown! Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, sports talk from Montana for Montana. Live from the Kurtz Polaris studio, here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. In a one-bid league, who's going to go and what seed are they going to get? A bevy of guests. And which rodeo event would Colter and I be best at? Specifically, all of them. It is Tutela Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you on this very fine Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for letting us be on board with you wherever you are, whatever you're up to. We appreciate that very much. We are available on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com. You can listen live on the Listen Live tab. The stream available all the time. It is available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. You can also pick up your phone and call us, 329-1899, the phone number, 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Rankish Brothers RV phone line. Today, we're going to talk a little bit of basketball, some projections as we get close to tournament time, and we are going to sort of open things up about the future around here when it comes to Tournament Bracket Challenge. Can't wait for this. The annual Tutela Nuanez Bracket Challenge. Got a bunch of prizes. We're excited about this, so we will get into that. We also, half hour from now, going to have Danny Sprinkle, the head coach of the Montana State men's basketball team. He's been joining us regularly throughout the year. We appreciate that from him, certainly, and we will talk about that. We will get into some rodeo things. Notably, it has come out today by, he didn't find this out, but our crack researcher scouring the world, David Graff, in the back producing the show, that Madison Bumgardner has been competing in rodeos regularly under the pseudonym Mason Saunders, which is just great. So we will talk about pseudonyms and rodeo in this hour as well. Top of the next hour, Lori Payne. She is the head coach of the Northern Arizona women's basketball team. Northern Arizona going to be playing the Lady Grizz on Thursday in Missoula, and then on Saturday, head over to Bozeman to take on Montana State. She is a native of Havre, Montana. She was a head coach at UPS for many years, University of Puget Sound in Tacoma, has been the head coach now at NAU for a couple of seasons, and is also an absolutely all-time player. She is a member of the MHSA Hall of Fame in the state of Montana and played at Washington. Was a two-time Pac-10 all-conference performer. So Lori Payne going to join us at the top of the hour. And also, we're going to start bringing you some interviews with folks who are playing sports, athletes around the nation playing sports elsewhere, but that are from Montana. And today we are excited to have Cam Strong. He is a captain, already? Captain of the Dartmouth hockey team playing, well, yes, hockey at Dartmouth, but he is from Billings, Montana. So we will have Cam Strong on the show today. Look forward to having him with us, and we appreciate that. We also will have the snippet from episode 7 of Grizz Greats the Coaching Tree, this one with Larry Krastoviak. Larry Krastoviak's episode, Grizz Greats the Coaching Tree, episode 7, comes out later on today, so we will bring some of that to you, let you listen to it. I apologize for the continued raspiness. I don't know why I insist on yelling when I'm on the radio, but I do. And also, I yelled a lot, as you know, if you've been listening, on Sunday night. I was at the Korn concert. I have not fully recovered. I feel great, but I sound less great. The good news is it's just never going to end. I'm not sick.
So
I'm not sick.
So you think?
No, I know it. Because you know how I know? Because I was, and because I feel great. I just sound, like I sound like what I've done. I sound like I was in the throes of ecstasy, screaming my face off for some number of hours. I
feel like you're always sick if you live in Missoula, Montana in the winter.
It's
the only part I don't like. I love the ice and the cold and the wind and the snow and all the misery that everybody complains about. It gives me great joy. I'm happy you can't drive. I'm happy that you're cold. I enjoy all of it. It's my favorite part about living in Montana. The one thing I hate about this valley is how sick you get. It's different than other places in Montana because I've lived in Bozeman, and you get more sick here. The inversion is real.
It's absolutely. I'm with you on everything that you just said. Did we tell the people the other day about the webcam that we were looking at? Did we say that on the air?
I don't know.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. We were at a place. We were watching, and they have a webcam up, and it's at some beach, some bar beach.
Right. Yes, we did tell people about this.
In the Virgin Islands. And you and I was like, this is why we're friends, because both of us look at that and go, why would you waste your time in the sand doing nothing in the Virgin Islands when you could be here? And here's the thing is that most people, the presumption is that most people go, oh, you are lying to yourself or you're an idiot or whatever. But I think there's actually a lot more people who enjoy and prefer the winter than let on. I'm just happy to be up front with it. Anyway, Colter, it's a big show today. We got a lot to get to, so let's get started. Let's talk a bit about basketball broadly as it pertains to the Big Sky Conference. And the University of Montana, who is the number one team in the Big Sky Conference on the men's side as it stands right now. David, you saw that Montana is being projected, first of all, because they're leading the conference as the conference representative in the NC2A tournament. And all of them save one have the Grizzlies as a 16 seed. One publication, ESPN, right, has them as a 15?
ESPN has them as a 15 against Florida State and Raekwon Evans.
What an interesting deal that would be. Raekwon Evans and FSU.
Have you seen the Deion Sanders 30 for 30?
Oh, yeah.
I watched it last night. First of all these guys now are posing in terms of their authenticity of their swagger compared to that guy. This guy's like 19 years old. He's giving himself nicknames, but it's not just false bravado. This is like the real deal. His outward brashness is just phenomenal.
I believe, I don't know the scenario. I don't want to get out here and start making stuff up, but there is some race that somebody said that they could beat Deion in, and he said, I will beat you running backwards, and ran backwards and won the race.
I bet he did.
So, yeah.
I bet he did. But anyways, I was just thinking about our most recent Grizz Greats podcast that we did with Pat Kennedy. I listened to that on my drive back from Bozeman. I know that there's not a lot of warm, fuzzy feelings around the Missoula community for Pat Kennedy. That's fine. People can think whatever they want. But I did think that the first part of that interview, where we're talking about his time when he was at Florida State and what Florida State football was in the mid-'90s and what Deion Sanders was, and then how Pat
Charlie
Kennedy,
Ward is
Charlie Ward is on both teams, right?
Yes.
And the Heisman Trophy winner is also playing for Pat Kennedy, and they also have Sam Cassell and Bob Sura, and it's a very interesting conversation because you think about the powers that were in the ACC back then. I mean, the ACC's always been stacked, but at that moment you had Mike Krzyzewski and Dean Smith and Lefty Driesell and Jim Valvano and on down the line. I mean, so many powerhouse programs and coaches, and Kennedy just fitting into the mix of that. I thought it was just so interesting. But then when I hear that Montana against Florida State, to me, so much about this is going to be you're not going to get a good draw if you're coming out of the Big Sky at this exact moment in the league. The league's RPI is not high enough. Whoever's going to win the league, the Grizz or otherwise, they're not going to have the national win that you're going to need to get the 12 seed, which is kind of the magic number for a mid-major conference to get what you'd say is quote-unquote a good draw. Therefore, you're going to play one of the top 8 to 12 teams in the country almost certainly. But I think going to even if you're the 15th seed to play a second seed of Florida State, that's a way worse draw than going to Spokane to play Gonzaga. Even if you're playing Spokane or you play Gonzaga in their home city, their travel so much more rigorous. You're going to have just all the fear and anxiety that comes with the complete unknown. I mean, there's a chance that there's guys on the Grizz team that have played in Spokane or at McCarthy Arena or whatever it might be. There's no chance, I don't think, that anybody from Montana has ever stepped foot in Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah, see, I don't think that makes any difference at all.
You don't?
No. I think playing Gonzaga in Spokane as a matter of the travel side of it, sure.
Exactly.
But like almost everything with the tournament is an unknown for almost every team that's playing in it. Like, I mean, you going because you're playing in Tallahassee compared to playing in, say, Southern California or even the Northwest. Like, I mean, maybe for some kids, like you're going back to your home area, I'm not sure that's a great thing. Now you got parents, family showing up to the games and that kind of thing. At the end of the day,
I think your family's going to probably make the best effort to go to.
I mean, your folks might show up, right?
Sure,
but your, high school, friends and whatever that are just right down the road. If it's played in Seattle, or if it's played in even Spokane, no, they're not going.
But the thing about it is, if you're seated out west too, not only is the travel easier, but you might have a lot more. There's a lot more familiar things that could cross in front of your face. In other words, say you're seated in Spokane, and so is a couple Pac-12 teams, and all of a sudden you're looking at guys who you've played against before. I think that does take the edge off. I think it makes you feel more comfortable. It makes you don't have to wonder if you can compete at that level when you have the familiarity of, oh, this guy over here, I played AAU against this dude. I remember when I hung with that dude. Okay, if he's here, I'm here. Okay, maybe we can make this thing happen. Again, I think it's going to be uphill sledding for whoever comes out of the Big Sky, Montana or otherwise. But I do think that there's a variation in draw for two reasons. One, location, but two, I think that there's just a different style of basketball as well. I said this earlier, but I think that drawing a Big 10 or a Big 12 team is worse than drawing a Pac-12 or a West Coast Conference team, regardless of what they're ranked, if you're a team out of the Big Sky. Because of just the style of play, the way that the game might be officiated, the way that the game might be operated. I just think that there's a lot of differences, and I think that they're disadvantages in terms of the differences if you're playing Michigan than they are if you're playing Gonzaga, even though Gonzaga might straight up be a more talented, better team this year.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that I just don't think it matters that much. I think if you're the matchup matters to an extent, but I think that there's always going to be a situation in which, say, Montana in 2013 goes up against Syracuse. It just has no shot. Now, Syracuse turned out, again, to be really good. They went to the Final Four.
Yep.
But also, it was a horrendous matchup, obviously, for the Montana Grizzlies, who just had absolutely no shot to even be competitive in the game.
Totally.
Because of the style that was played and the length and all the strengths.
Yeah, they were built on defense and slashing offensive players, and you play that against that zone. I mean, so the worst shot Montana's players could take, I mean, that's Will Cherry's worst shot is the 17-foot jump shot, and that's all they got in that game.
And whereas if they play, say, North Carolina State, I'm making this up, whoever, some other ACC team, maybe it's an 18-point loss instead of a 40-point loss or something like this. Mm-hmm. Okay, but the point is that the projections, I don't care about, like the fact that Florida State is whatever on the other side and Tallahassee is the location.
Sure.
That is so.
But wouldn't you agree that Florida State is a worse matchup for Montana than Gonzaga? Because Gonzaga is going to have a bunch of veteran guys that are skilled, but Florida State has some of the freakiest athletes in all of college basketball. They have guys that can make Saeed Pridgett seem irrelevant, whereas he might be able
There's
to
not
operate.
a single guy on Montana who can match up with Killian Tilly or Philip Petrushchev. That's a nightmare if you're Montana.
No, it is, but they don't have the endless string of 6'11" guys who can run rim to rim.
I mean, they do, actually. I mean, that's the thing, is that, like, Gonzaga, the presumption is that because there's familiarity with who they are in the conference that they're in, that you have a better look. I'm just not sure that it's true. And because Montana has played Gonzaga tough. Look, here's what I'd say. I'd say that actually Gonzaga is like the ideal scenario for any Big Sky team because of the proximity and because of the knowledge and because of what it would mean about the travel, not because Gonzaga is some sort of great draw, relatively speaking.
Right.
The other thing is that that's the one example that works for. Any other example that you show me of a 2 or a 1 or even a 3 seed going against whoever the Big Sky champion is, like, I mean, I'm just not going to accept that, well, and I know that they just lost their first game, but because San Diego State is from the Mountain West, that all of a sudden you're in a better situation playing the Aztecs than you are playing Kansas State or whatever it might be because they're in the Big 12. You know, I'm not buying that.
Why? They have better athletes.
No,
here's the thing.
They absolutely don't have better athletes.
Yes, they do. They absolutely do. The whole thing is you might be, if you're a mid-major team that's in the top 10, your talent is probably down the list as to why you're where you're at. You have great chemistry. You have a great feel for each other. Look at Dayton. Dayton's right now in the top 5, right? Do they have as good of athletes as even the middle-of-the-road SEC teams? No. But do they have better continuity? Have they played together longer? Do they have better chemistry as a team? Yes. And that's where I think that you run into such a buzzsaw when you play the high major teams, because you're going to have dudes who might not be more skilled. They might not fit the piece of the puzzle as well. They might not be a part of a team that's just rolling, but they have superior physical skill than anything you'll ever see at any level, Mountain West, Big Sky included.
I don't see how the presumption that just Dayton, all right, I mean, they're the number 4 team
San
in the
Diego
nation.
State does not have a player on their team that is the caliber of athlete as at least 4 front court players at Florida State.
That is simply just a statement of assumption about conferences. That's not a statement of fact about teams. That's what I'm saying. I mean, when you're talking about the number 5 team in the nation, it's the conference that you come from. I understand your principle.
You have
more.
You have way more high level players in the ACC than you're going to have in the Mountain West. Period.
But like
San Diego State probably has way better commitment to each other, way better internal chemistry, but it does not mean they have better individual athletes.
All I'm saying is when all of a sudden, because he slipped through the cracks, John Morant is on not a high.
I totally understand. All I'm
team.
saying is in the SEC and the ACC, you have 10 guys who have next level athleticism.
Yep.
San Diego State does not have that. They are a phenomenal team. They do not have 10 guys who have NBA-level athleticism. I'm not saying that any school in the ACC or SEC has 10 NBA guys, but they have NBA level of athleticism. That doesn't necessarily translate to being good basketball.
Have you watched San Diego State play this year?
I have, and they have tremendous athletes too. All I'm saying is that the athletic disadvantages, there's guys on the Grizz and other teams in the Big Sky that literally cannot step on the court against ACC schools, and they would be overwhelmed against San Diego State as well. But there's more guys like them. Think of a guy like Sam Merrill, one of the best players in the Mountain West. This is a great example of what I'm talking about. He is a phenomenal player. He's one of the best scorers in the country. He doesn't have the top-level athleticism that I'm talking about.
And that is a great example, and you're right, absolutely about that. But I guess my separation is
like you can't
take Dayton and San Diego State.
Right.
Dayton is much more in the vein of what you're talking about.
Yep.
San Diego State, to me, is great because of their athleticism.
No, right. They are. And that's a bad example, honestly, because San Diego State does have a whole bunch of high major level
all
athletes.
I'm saying is it's just more about the program. And the assumption is that Gonzaga, who's what are they, 2 or 3, whatever.
And they've been number 1 before
lost
this year. Or within this season.
Because they have a much more of, can you say, a group effort? But, I mean, they still had two two guys go in the top, 12 of the NBA draft last season. Who knows where Killian Tilly's going to go and all of that. But, I mean, it's not the same sort of athleticism, but, I mean, Zach Collins. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Good. Who did I always call?
You always called him...
It's amazing I got him right. That's what's shocking to me. I've shocked myself.
You used to call him something else, Collins.
He's 7
Alex
feet
Collins is
one,
what you used to call him.
and he's shooting threes, and there isn't even a 7'1" guy in the entire Big Sky Conference. And I know he's not like a 42-inch vertical leap guy, but also you can't play with this guy. You can't play with him. You know?
I totally,
That's a Gonzaga guy.
I totally agree. All I'm saying is you're going to get dudes who are such, as Jeff Choate would say, twitchy, freaky athletes.
Yeah.
Stick with me here.
Yeah.
A guy like Killian Tilly is a great like pick and pop stretch 4 or 5 guy, right? I mean, he's huge, but he can also shoot the jumper. A guy like Jared Samuelson, for example, for Montana, he's going to get diced by Gonzaga, no doubt. But he can at least step on the floor.
Right.
He cannot step on the floor against Florida State. It is over. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. I do know what
so
you're
now
saying.
all of a sudden Montana's depth is even hurt even more if they play the teams with the high. And just talking about the big guys, man. It's the 6'10" rim runner guys that you're going to get, especially in Florida, that just put it so far out there. You do your thing, and then I have a question for you.
Well, this is a question that's bringing it back to Montana specifically. Okay? Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. You have talked to me, and I didn't want to buy it, but now I kind of do buy it when you talk about the way that you get a high seed coming from a one-bid league is by having a signature win.
Right. It's not just about playing the games. You got to win one of them.
Yeah, you get a signature win, and that bumps you up. You know, look, if you get into the 15 line, great, but 12 ideally, 13 is where you got to get. You have to have a win against a team that matters nationally in order to prove whatever it is, even if you're 19-1 or 18-2 in your conference, whatever it might be. The converse of that happened to Montana. They did not get a signature win, and they did take a signature loss.
Yes.
Against Montana Tech.
Yep.
So when it comes to this year, even though if Montana was fortunate enough to go to the conference tournament, this would be their third consecutive visit. David and I were talking earlier today about how much would that matter? How much does that impact? Because the selection committee rotates a little bit, but they stay. There's crossover.
Yeah, and I understand. I know what you're going.
You know, people in the same room. But the fact that they lost that game, regardless of what they then went on to do in their conference tournament, I mean, that's a real. That's a loss that you can't have. Period on your resume. Not that they would have, necessarily jumped up there anyway to a 13 or a 12, but this just feels to me like because of that specifically, that really encumbers this team when it comes to the seeding. Do you think?
So
do you agree with that?
I have two questions for you. I do think that having a familiar "quote unquote" brand name is a good thing when it comes to being a low major league like the Big Sky, and you're the Montana Grizzlies. Yep. But I also think that Montana has made it to the NCAA tournament 7 out of the last 14 years and 5 out of the last 10 years. They haven't performed even close to well, not even close to well, since 2006. It's not as if they are just performing respectably. They have gotten destroyed. Well, I mean, against Michigan the first time around, it was they were able to make it a little bit ugly, and they were able to hang in that game, but they still scored a season low in points. They didn't even break 50, and they looked mostly overwhelmed for the duration, even though they ended up losing by, I think 14 points, 13 or 14 points. But I do think that at some point, the brand name recognition that they have as the representative of the Big Sky hurts them and hurts the league if you don't perform better. The Big Sky's got to have a scare. So here's my question for you.
Okay.
Montana is built in the image of Travis DeCuire. And as we've learned throughout the Grizz Greats, the coaching tree, this podcast series, so much of the identity of the program as well as the way they play on both offense and defense has matriculated through now 9 coaches. they all run variations of the high-low offense. They've all, with the exception of this year's team, but you could say Saeed Pridgett fills that role sometimes, but they've all mostly played inside out with dominant big men, whether it's Larry Krzysztofiak or Wayne Tinkle, all the way through all the guys for the last 25 years. Andrew Strait and Jordan Haskett and a bunch of big guys that they play through the post. Now, that's all fine and good, but when we see upsets in the tournament, more often than not, what do we see? We see teams with senior backcourts, guys that have played together for a long time, that have savvy and confidence. But more than anything, we see teams that get hot, and then they have this irrational confidence, and then the place that they're playing gets behind them, and they're at this neutral site.
If you are a Big Sky Conference team, regardless of who you are, if you are in it at all, 80% of that gym is going to be in your court.
So how did University of Maryland, Baltimore County beat Virginia? They hit like 10 threes in the first half, and now everybody in the gym's behind them.
And they played a team that plays slow and then tightened up. Yeah.
So here's my question for you. The toughness, the defensive mindset that Montana has crafted its identity as a program, to me, I think that hurts the Grizz tremendously when it comes to the big dance, because what is their biggest weakness? They certainly can go out and hit 10 threes and a half on their home court against Montana State, but no one would say that they're a knockdown shooting team. They don't have like the Doug McDermott, Kyle Korver type guy who can just get it cooking. Their best guy, he gets all his points at the rim. He doesn't even shoot free throws.
Yeah, I mean, Kendall Manuel can get hot, but
that's what it would take, right? And I think that's the thing where I think that's where Montana has to take the next step, is they got to supplement their current identity, which is obviously good enough to win the Big Sky year in and year out, or at least contend for the Big Sky title year in and year out. They don't have those shooters, or like the kid at Purdue. If they could get the poor man's version of that Edwards kid, Carson Edwards, last year at Purdue, like the point guard who could play on the ball but could just pull up in transition.
He was a blast to watch.
I mean, side note, if you want to know how good you have to be to play in the NBA, that kid's is he even on a roster?
He's on a roster. I'm not sure where. I did see
but
it.
I mean,
Celtics.
If he's on the Celtics, does he get any tick?
A little bit.
But I'm just saying, like, that dude was ridiculous. Lights out, and he wasn't even a first-round pick, and he's struggling to even break a rotation. That's how good you have to be to play in the league.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what do you think of just the fact that Montana, basically, they use physical play. They basically bully their way to the Big Sky title every year with their defense and their methodical nature in the half court. But can they catch lightning in a bottle and get hot from deep like you're going to need to win one of these games?
If it has to be that, I mean, if that has to be the formula, then, it says that it's unlikely. They got a couple. Kendall Manuel,
he can light it.
Is not. He's not a good shooter. He is a great shooter of the basketball.
Yep.
But he's also going to be somebody that you presume the game plan for. Here's one thing that I think that is underrated when it comes to teams coming from the Big Sky into the NC2A tournament, and what isn't recognized, because it's easy to see the 6'10" leapers in the rim. But the game now, with the amount of length that is in the defensive backcourt at high major schools, when the guards are 6'4" to 6'5" to 6'6", with arm spans that are 6'6" to 6'8".
Exactly.
Their closeout, this is an open three in the Big Sky Conference that is now a blocked shot in the tournament. I mean, that happens all the time, and you saw it against Michigan 2 straight seasons where guys, they ran the offense exactly. They got the shot they wanted, and lo and behold, it's going the other direction because the closing speed and length is you can't replicate it. It doesn't exist here, and so that stuff is the stuff that I think really you have to find a way kind of to work through. But at the end of the day, the thing that I would like to see is we focus on the Big Sky Conference, okay? And recently it's been Montana because they've been the teams that have gone. I think that it's an objective fact, as we know, that the Big Sky Conference is the longest drought in terms of winning a game in the Big Sky. But
in the NCAA tournament.
In the NCAA tournament. Right. But I think that if you actually took a really broad view at the bottom, at all the single bid conferences, okay, and looked at how those teams perform, whoever they are in the NC2A tournament, obviously you have your upsets. You got your big deals, and we know about them. But I think by and large, you are seeing absolute handled games and blowouts. I mean, I think that's what you see.
Yes. I remember tracking this the last 2 years. I tracked every single first-round game, and Montana had the largest margin of loss. I mean, I think there was only 2 games that were bigger blowouts in last year's first round than Montana's was.
Right, and last year was a disappointing. It was a disappointing game for Montana. It was a disappointing draw. It's disappointing for a lot of different reasons, as we know. But 2 years ago, it was a 14-point game. It was an ugly game, to be sure, and if you watched it, Michigan, once they got in control, never relinquished control of the game. That's fine, but it was not a disappointing performance to me. I mean, when Montana's up 10-0, you go, whoa, is there some way that this is going to go? But them being outmatched by Michigan is not it's not a shock.
Right, but did you watch North Dakota when they made the tournament 3 years ago to play Arizona?
Yes.
They competed way better than Montana.
Sure did. They scared Arizona.
So that's what I'm talking about. Being up 10-0 and having a lead with 10 minutes to play is way different. I mean, it was a one-possession game with 12 minutes to play when North Dakota played Arizona, and they ended up losing by 12.
But that's what I'm saying is that it wasn't Montana, but there's a Big Sky Conference team that, in fact, did that.
I know. That's what I'm saying, though, is that I think that these Grizz teams the last couple of years have been exceptionally good, except for they can't shoot. They can't shoot at a high level. Weber State against Xavier the year before, when Weber State beat Montana in the Big Sky tournament title game and then played Xavier. They had Jeremy Sanglin, so they could hang a little bit. They ended up losing by 16 points, but they were in the game in the second half. That's what I want, and I just don't know if you can get there. I guess to take us out, is Saeed Pridgett making 11 two-pointers in a game going to be the thing that helps you beat a high major team? I just really don't think it's not gonna.
No, it isn't. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. The good news is it's the 25th of February, and the tournament starts on the 19th of March. So we have some time to continue to sort this out with all our dear friends. We will talk more about the bracket challenge, too, but fear not, my friends. We got some great prizes and a tournament challenge coming to you. But next, Danny Sprinkle, head coach of the Montana State Bobcats, right here with us.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Alignment and Brakes and Shocks and Wheels and Tires. Some tire places don't offer all that, but we do to help keep you safe. It's our Les Schwab Founders Celebration. Get $50 off an alignment. That's nearly half off regular price when you purchase 4 Reputation or Open Range AT tires all month long. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates. Hey, guys, you ever heard of Magic Johnson?
Rings a bell.
One of the greatest basketball superstars of all time played for a man named Judd Heathcote at Michigan State. And guess what? Judd Heathcote started his career at the University of Montana.
Coulter, did you know that 2 former University of Montana head coaches have been head coaches in the NBA and 1 on Team USA?
Isn't that amazing?
And that's why we've created Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcast. Just search Grizz Greats.
It's a phenomenal and historic podcast series proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate.
Hey, it's Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know about sports. Tune into my weekly segment on Fridays where we talk about, well, I don't really know what we talk about. Sometimes it's sports, sometimes it's athletes. It's usually gossip, but it's always funny.
The Chick Who Doesn't Know About Sports is brought to you each week by the Iron Grizz. The Iron Grizz is hosting weekly wine tastings each Wednesday beginning at 6 p.m., so tune into Tutel Nuanez each Friday to listen to Carolyn.
That's me.
The Chick Who Doesn't Know About Sports, presented each week by the Iron Grizz next to the University of Montana Golf Course.
Join Meals on Wheels in the annual March for Meals to celebrate the seniors in our communities and the ways we can all support them. All across the country, communities will join together to take a stand for the millions of seniors struggling with hunger and isolation. So join the march. Celebrate March for Meals your own way. March with us.
Go to MissoulaAgingServices.org or text M4M20 to 71777.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Here's some news for you. The educational records of former University of Montana quarterback Jordan Johnson will remain confidential after the U.S. Supreme Court decided not to get involved in a case brought by author John Krakauer. Krakauer had made a public records request for the document in 2014 while writing the book Missoula, Rape in the Justice System in a College Town. But Montana officials denied him access to those documents related to Johnson, who was accused of rape by an acquaintance in 2012.
Krakauer, who's the author of Into the Wild and Into Thin Air, took officials to court over their denial. A lower court initially ordered Krakauer be given access to records, but the Montana Supreme Court disagreed. Johnson was ultimately acquitted in court, but a university disciplinary proposal had recommended expelling him from UM. Johnson appealed his expulsion to the State Commissioner of Higher Education, Clay Christian. It was not clear what action Christian took, but Johnson remained a student at Montana. Krakauer wanted documents released related to Christian's intervention.
University of Montana senior pitcher Michaela Hood is the Big Sky Pitcher of the Week after her standout performances over the weekend at the Razorback Invitational in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Hood helped boost Montana to its first victory over a ranked opponent in school history.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
How are you? Good. Glad to hear it. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for letting us be with you. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Twitter, at Gus Tutel, at Skyline Sports MT, and at 102.9 ESPN. And tonight, Grizz Greats, a coaching tree, episode 7 with Larry Krystowiak being released. Great episode. You will hear a piece of that at the end, so we are very much looking forward to that. There's RV phone line, and we are joined once again by the head coach of the Montana State men's basketball team, Danny Spriggle. Coach, thanks once again for joining us. We appreciate it. You're in an airport, no rest for the weary, just like that. You turn around and you're on your way to California and Arizona for a couple of games. So where are you at right now with this road swing that you got to go on, and a huge one, right? These next 2 games in the arc of your season right now coming down the stretch.
It is. It's the last, this weekend is huge for a lot of teams, not just us. I mean, it seems like, everybody that's kind of jumbled up in this pack, from the 3rd seed to the 8th seed, we're all playing each other this weekend. And, we got 2 tough road games. Sacramento State's been great at home all year, and so's NAU. And both teams are actually playing really well right now. And so we got to keep getting better. We're going to have to compete. I thought, even last weekend, I thought we played decent. We gave ourselves a chance to win in both games, but we just didn't do enough. Didn't do enough. And this time of year, you got to make some plays and make some shots late to win it.
We were both so impressed with the atmosphere in Bozeman on Saturday. It was an awesome basketball Saturday, from the girls cutting down the nets after beating the Lady Grizz to them getting announced early on in the first half of your guys' game and everybody giving them a standing ovation. The football team carrying the trophy around. The kid hits the half-court shot at halftime.
Full court shot,
too. Yeah.
Give him his due here.
Yeah, don't be shortchanging him, man.
Well, I think he got shortchanged the period. I think that's worth $100,000.
Hey, I'll tell you what, it might be worth more than that. I mean, the sad thing is that joker made a 3-pointer and a full court shot. We only made 3 3-pointers all game. That dude did it in like 30 seconds.
He made as many as their team.
Yeah, he made as many as we did. Shot a better percentage, too.
No doubt. Well, but the fact is that it was a great atmosphere, but you guys come up short. But it's one game amongst a group of 20, and now you have 4 more really essential games. So what's the message to your team to not dwell maybe on what was an emotional loss and move forward and get ready for these next couple weeks?
Yeah, it is. You have to. It's hard to keep in perspective because it's such a big game in the state, but but you have to. Now we got to turn our sights to Sacramento State, and you can't lose at Sac State and lose at NAU because you lost to Montana. You got to. Yeah, it's got to hurt that night, and you got to move on. And you just hope that you hope that you see some of these teams that have beat us twice, down the road in the tournament, and. But like you said, you just have to get a little bit better. There's obviously some things we need to clean up. But I thought, credit to, Montana and Coach DeCuire, I didn't even think they were just a high-level defensive team. I thought they were elite, that night. I thought they were on point. They were there on every single one of our catches. Even after watching the film again, it was just like, they made it really, really hard on us.
When you go down to Sacramento, they got, a couple of very good players, and then the Nest is such an interesting environment to play in. And I know this is obviously first trip to Sacramento this season, but what's it take here to go ahead and win a game that you need to have on the road against an opponent that, like you said, is tough in their own barn?
Yeah, they are. And, like I said, the environment, you never know what it's going to be like. And I'm used to it because I coached at Northridge for 10 years, and our gym was worse than theirs. So, it is what it is. But, sometimes those teams that play in environments like that, they have a chip on their shoulder. And, and they take pride in playing at home. And so our guys, we have to come with a mature mindset. The one thing is in smaller gyms like that have been some of our better offensive games. It seems like we shoot better when we play in environments like that. And so, I'm hoping we do because we got to make some shots. And we played really well against them. The first game of conference up here, and I know Coach Cat, he's going to have those guys ready, and he'll have some schemes drawn up to stop Harold and Jabril and make other guys step up, and that's what we got to do.
Underrated part of basketball, right? I mean, I think that if you haven't been a player and you've never been a true shooter, maybe you don't think about just the differences in gyms, the differences in sight lines. But we talk about that all the time.
And especially in the big sky,
in the big sky, right. The gyms are so different. And you guys shoot so well at the brick because it's your home court. It makes sense, right? I
don't know. Judging by last Saturday, we shoot the brick, but we should have played at Bozeman High.
But it is. I mean, you yourself were a shooter. And is there a way to prepare for that element of it? Because you're going to play it in front of a gym of less than 1,000 people that's super tight and packed in on Thursday, and then you're gonna play in front of one of the most cavernous gyms in the entire United States at Northern Arizona. The sightlines are so much different. How do you prepare for that?
No, they are, and one thing, I mean, we don't talk about it much. I don't want the guys thinking about it too much because at the end of the day, you just got to go make shots wherever you play. It's but it is different, and you see it a lot of times when teams go to the Final Four. You're playing in those huge domes, and it's like there's just a basket with an orange rim, and there's 2 miles of nothing behind it, and that's how NAU is going to be. And Sac State, there's a wall right there. Everything seems, closer in proximity, and a lot of times it's easier to focus when you're in a smaller, venue. But yeah, I mean, we'll shoot around, and we practice like in our auxiliary gyms all week. We'll do that sometimes when we're going on the road, just so they're just shooting in different, not shooting in the brick every time, and getting used to different places like that.
Danny Sprinkle joining us, head coach of the Montana State Bobcats men's team. They are headed to Sacramento State in Northern Arizona on the last road trip of the regular season. And Coach, you talked about the jumbled group that there is, but I mean, there's 5 teams that are a game and a half apart from one another, basically fighting it out for looks like 2 sort of buys in Boise. I know that you can only control, the team that you play that night, but what is it that's maybe different about this year that way as opposed to maybe, hey, there's one other team that we're trying to kind of get out in front of where it's this big group in the middle right now?
Yeah, and like you said, and we're all playing each other. So, it could be completely different. The standings could look completely different on Friday morning.
Right.
And so, but that's what's fun about the league is the parity. I mean, even the top teams and even the teams, at the bottom, Idaho and Idaho State right now, like they're 3 or 4 one-possession games, 1-point games from being in the 4 seed right now.
Yeah.
And same thing with the teams at the top. You know, they've won all those close games where they could be fighting for a 6 seed, you know, if a couple different plays go different. And so, yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting tournament. You know, it's going to be an interesting tournament because all of a sudden, you know, the one thing I think a lot of teams have is, you know, pretty good home court advantages in the Big Sky, where all of a sudden now you're at a neutral site, and I mean, it's, you know, you're playing in a totally different environment in Boise, and I mean, shoot, you never know what's going to happen.
How do you weigh that then, navigating these last 4 regular season games? Because at the end of the day, in the Big Sky, 1-bid league, whoever wins 3 or maybe 4 games in a row in Boise is the one that gets to go to the tournament. So you're obviously putting a priority on these regular season games, trying to get better, peak at the tournament, but it is really going to be all about playing well in the tournament. So when you have a guy like Harold Frey, maybe that's not 100%, I mean, how do you manage the way you do your rotations and the way you approach these last 4 games?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we try to keep our guys fresh more mentally, you know, than physically right now. Because this is a time where everybody's been through the grind. It's been a long season, and you know, some teams just shut down mentally. You know, they just do, and you see it. You know, then all of a sudden it affects them physically. They're not playing with energy, and you know, that's the one thing you have to try and avoid this time of year. We try to teach more through film, you know, and we'll walk through stuff on the court instead of, you know, going live, you know, 5-on-5 and beat each other up. But I think it's really important this time of year. You know, you have to keep them positive. You know, even after 2 tough losses last week, we had to show the guys, like, hey, here's some things we did good, but, you know, we're going to see teams double and Jabril again. You know, like, you know, how are we going to attack that? You know, here's some more solutions to those answers, and just getting them more confident in that, because, like you said, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, you know, it's going to be some 1-2 possession games in the tournament. There's going to be some upsets, and you just got to ride the momentum.
When you say keeping your guys mentally fresh, what does that look like specifically? I mean, is there fun to be had? I mean, I know there is at times, but are you actually trying to like implement that sort of levity, or is it just you know, more sort of day to day the way that you interact with them, or what does that look like?
It a little bit of both. You know, it is interacting with them. You know, showing them individual film, showing them good things that maybe they did early in the season. You know, showing them making a bunch of shots, or, you know, just being successful on the court, so they see that, you know, visually. It, you know, I think, you know, shortening up the practices this time of year. You know, still getting the work in that you need, but, you know, keeping them off their legs. You know, instead of going for 2 hours, you know, we might go for an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes. You know, we might do more just individual skill work, because at the end of the day, right now, teams are who they are. You know, you are who you are offensively and defensively. You're not going to be adding a ton of new defenses or offensive stats. And now it's just about guys being confident. You know, they know where their shots are going to come from, and they got to be confident knocking those shots down. So we do a lot of shooting and just kind of individual work right now.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you very much once again being with us, and best of luck this week on the road trip and getting done with the second to last week of the regular season, all right?
You got it, fellas. Always good talking with you. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Coach. Danny Sprinkle, head coach of the Montana State men's basketball team. We appreciate him joining us. Hey, are you ready for a new truck? Get to Mildenberger Motors in Hamilton for the best deals on the best trucks, Duramax, Chevy, or GMC. If Coulter and I did rodeo, what event would we do? And did you know that Madison Bumgarner does do rodeo? We'll tell you what next.
Here at Florence Coffee, we're celebrating leap year with you this Saturday, February 29th. When you preload $20 or more on your Florence Coffee mobile app, you will leap up 29%. Load $100 and you'll get $29 free. Do it from anywhere. Download the Floco app, top up, and the deal is yours. Stop by any Florence Coffee location and we'll also leap you up a size this Saturday only.
Florence Coffee Company.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and take on the hassles for you so you can just focus on getting better.
If you've been injured in an accident, give the Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. The Advocates are on your side.
Attention anyone in business development. Are you tired of drumming up new business only to have your prospects use your proposals to negotiate better deals somewhere else? Are you sick of getting beat up on price? Are you done working with people who are wasting your time? Would you like to make more money with less prospecting? For a new look at these age-old problems, plan to attend a free 90-minute workshop at the Wingate Hotel in Missoula, Wednesday, February 26th at 9 a.m. If you own or run a business with a team of salespeople, you'll want to attend this too. We'll discuss what separates top performers from everyone else. Stop wasting time and start making more money. Visit PowerSellingWorkshop.com to register today. PowerSellingWorkshop.com for new ways to handle old issues. PowerSellingWorkshop.com.
Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree Podcast, Episode 7 is out now, featuring a University of Montana legend, Larry Krystkowiak. Coulter, Coach Krystkowiak had one of the great playing careers at the University of Montana and then returned to his alma mater to be the head coach for 2 seasons in 04 and 05 and 05 and 06. Went to the NC2A tournament both seasons, and in his second and final season at UM, they became the last team in the Big Sky Conference to win an NC2A tournament game.
We call this the Grizz Greats, and he is one of the greatest Grizz of them all. Larry Krystkowiak, an in-state product who went to high school in Missoula, was the only 3-time MVP in the history of Montana basketball and the only player to ever score 2,000 points and grab 1,000 rebounds in his decorated career. A phenomenal career for Larry Krystkowiak that continues to this day at the University of Utah.
Just search Grizz Greats wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and enjoy the entire series of Grizz Greats, available thanks to Blackfoot Communications, Stockman's Bar, and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Coulter, if you and I were at the rodeo, do you think that they'd mistake us for the animals? Is that how that would go? It's kind of hard to know. I mean, I don't know. Let's see what we get into. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Good to be with all of you. Thanks for letting us be here. Okay, the impetus for this story and this conversation is this. David was sniffing around on the internet, which he's very good at, and found out that Madison Bumgarner, the soon-to-be Hall of Fame pitcher for the San Francisco Giants, is he still with the Giants? He is, isn't he?
No, he signed a 5-year, $85 million deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks this offseason.
Now, in a separate note, this is why the Diamondbacks are just not figuring. I mean, Madison Bumgarner he is a Hall of Famer. 5 years, $85 million now? Okay, anyway, an aside. He has been competing in rodeos regularly under the pseudonym Mason Saunders. David, what has he been doing at the rodeos?
He's a roper. He's been doing team roping, it appears, and winning some serious money.
I mean,
on the rodeo.
Do they not know?
It's not MLB money.
No, I'll say this. Mad Bum, he's not faking it with the rodeo thing, okay? He is doing, he's a cowboy. He's a ranch guy. He's got land. I think he's got cattle. He does the thing. But do you not know when the rodeo administrators, when this 6'6" guy walks up to this is Madison Bumgarner? You know it says Mason Saunders? I mean, don't you know?
Probably not.
Maybe not.
What percentage of Americans would recognize Madison Bumgarner walking down the street?
10.
Maybe.
Like 10.
100% of San Francisco. That's about it.
So there's about 800,000 people. Besides that.
It's bigger than that.
No, it's not. The population of San Francisco, the
city center.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my question, though, Coulter. If you and I were moonlighting, saying we want to just do some rodeoing, first of all, what would your pseudonym be? Because obviously you can't be Colton Nuanez.
Wouldn't it be Colton Nunez?
That's what everybody calls me anyways.
So I guess that wouldn't be a pseudonym.
I don't know. What would yours be?
I don't know. Alex Davidson. Come on. Who knows?
Bones.
To tell. Gus Begabones to tell. Okay.
So time out. So this is like a funny story, but who actually reported this? Because if I'm asking Bumgarner, I'm furious this got reported because this has to be a contract violation, right?
Well, he did a Rio Rancho rodeo event, and they posted some pictures of him and his partner because they won the event on Facebook. And then a couple reporters from The Athletic they saw those photos.
Now, let's be clear. He's been calf roping, okay? Yeah. So, it's not nothing, but of the rodeo events, risk to life and limb.
He's team roping, right? That's different than calf roping. Calf roping,
team roping, right?
Calf roping solo, team roping is roping the calf with a partner.
So what you have
doing
is
both.
The partner, one of them, throws the lasso around the calf, and the other one ties it in the team roping. Is that right? Okay.
It's front and back.
David, here's what you said you would do. You would provide us with various rodeo events, and Coulter and I can decide which ones we would be most suited for.
Not riding a bull, no question. Not happening.
All right, well, we got saddle bronc
Nobody's
riding.
happier than the bull about that.
I'm not riding a saddle bronc either.
Okay, what do you got, David?
We got saddle bronc riding, bareback riding, bull riding, tie-down roping, steer wrestling, team roping, barrel racing.
I'm steer wrestling.
Oh, barrel racing for sure. For me, barrel racing. So I thought I was going to have to say bareback. Not bareback, saddle bronking, because that's the closest thing to mosh pitting that happens at a rodeo.
But saddle bronc, but barrel racing though, you got to go full speed and then stop the horse, and if you don't do it right, you're getting bucked off.
But here's the difference.
No, you're not getting bucked off. You're just falling off due to the
inertia.
Force of science, gravity.
The saddle bronking is 100% you're getting bucked off with more violence and pain, I think, than just simply falling off on the deal. Now, go back, though, because you said there was a couple different roping and tying ones. And then there's the steer wrestling. I'm not doing that.
There's tie-down roping.
What's tie-down roping?
That's what you're thinking of, calf roping.
The single, okay, there's one person.
You rope it, and then you come down and you tie it.
So any of the things that involve lassos and knots, 100% no for me. I can't do it. I would end up, being kicked and hurt and in pain, and I would never, I would score a 0. They could count this on a calendar, how long it would take me to actually pull this off. I can't rope the thing. Never going to happen. What did you say, steer wrestling?
Steer wrestling, yeah.
I could buy that.
It's the closest thing to wrestling or tackle football.
But you still got to tie it.
No, you don't.
You just got to take it down, just pull it over?
You take it down, and then you pull the head over.
Okay, that's
Flip it onto its back.
Yeah, you know what?
So it's a lot of force. I'm just picking it because it was the thing that my mass would be most advantageous for, as well as to me, I think it's the least chance of getting hurt. Because
less than barrel racing?
Yeah, because the horse is running so fast, and then you got to stop it on a dime.
You're controlling the speed, though.
Right. But when this horse has to come to almost a full stop.
I don't know why you on top of a horse are worried about the speed of said horse.
Are you talking about me or Coulter?
Coulter.
I mean, these horses, we were talking about pro rodeo horses. These horses can.
No, you pick your own horse.
Well, right, but my horse would be a Clydesdale.
No, but it is true. For people who haven't ridden a horse or haven't ridden a horse much, and I've ridden very little in my life, which I know is a shock to everybody. But, you got a lot of front-back stability on a saddle, and you got 0 east-west stability. And so, you got your feet in the stirrups, so you get that. But it's, if you change direction on a horse, you need to be knowing that this is happening, or else you're not prepared. And you are right. You're going full speed one direction, and it's a matter of inertia and physics that as soon as this, thoroughbred rodeo horse takes a hard right turn, you might just keep going straight. And that might be it for you, and certainly it would be for me. The difference is, I know I'm taking last. I'm taking a nice trot. I'm waving to the people. We'll take a little wide loop around this barrel, wide loop around this barrel. We'll come across the line. It's like driving a Buick at a NASCAR race. You know?
That's why I'm picking steer wrestling, because then the dismount is my choice. I'm bailing off the horse whenever I want. And people would say, okay, you can certainly get hurt steer wrestling. Well, me jumping on top of the animal and wrestling it certainly is going to hurt, but not as much as my fat self flying through the air and then landing on my head after getting bucked off the horse.
Let me tell you something, okay? I've disagreed with you a lot on this show. I've agreed with you a lot on this show. I don't think I've ever agreed with you more about something than this, because here's what I think. You know, you got to learn, obviously, the technique, how to do it, the right way. But you could be a good to very good steer wrestler right now. Like, I believe this 100% that you absolutely have all of the qualities that you would need to be excellent at this, and you would do it. Like, I'm with you. I'm not getting on the bull.
Your other issue with barrel racing is that only girls can barrel race. There is no men's barrel racing. It's only women.
It's 2020.
I don't think it's happening. I think that's one of the cut hard lines that's been cut.
That's fine. I'll still take last, obviously, because it'll be a DQ, I guess. But David offered it as an
right.
option.
Okay.
So
well, only girls for the barrel racing. One last thing I know we got to get out, but I think that people in Montana certainly know about rodeo, but from a sports writer perspective, I used to live in Ellensburg, Washington, and I took that job because I wanted to cover Central Washington. At the time, they were one of the top 5 Division II programs in the country in football, and they had the best basketball team in the Great Northwest Athletic Conference. And it was a fascinating place because they had so many transfers and all these things. But the number one part of my gig in Ellensburg is Ellensburg's nickname is Rodeo City, USA. They have a 20,000-seat rodeo arena that they sell out over Labor Day weekend. I mean, it's like Washington Grizzly Stadium, but for rodeo. Mm-hmm. The PBR World Finals was there the Friday and Saturday night of the Labor Day weekend, my last year there. From a sports writer perspective, you're allowed to go in the chutes, but you got to have the full gear. You got to have boots, and you got to have a hat, and you got to tuck your shirt in. It's the only sports writing gig where I've ever had to actually wear a specific uniform to do it. You want color? You go down in those chutes when it's the PBR World Championships, and they got the 40 baddest bulls on the planet. You think you were going... These guys are waiting in line to see God. I mean, they are smoking cigarettes, shooting whiskey. Everybody's sweating. We're going to die. What am I doing? I could win $300,000, or I could die.
Yeah.
And like the level of tension, it far exceeds any other sporting event I've ever covered. Those guys, man. We always talk about rodeo winnings when we write about it in the Sports Center, and people think, man, you won $100,000 for 8 seconds. Damn right you did.
Yeah. And you're getting underpaid.
100%.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We'll take a break. We'll come back about 15 minutes from now. Lori Payne, the head coach of the Northern Arizona women's basketball team, going to join us. The Northern Arizona women making the Montana swing to Missoula on Thursday and Bozeman on Saturday. Head coach Lori Payne right after this. Hour number 2, straight ahead.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Alignment and Brakes and Shocks and Wheels and Tires. Some tire places don't offer all that, but we do to help keep you safe. It's our Les Schwab Founders Celebration. Get $50 off an alignment. That's nearly half off regular price when you purchase 4 Reputation or Open Range AT tires all month long. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Everybody knows that high school sports generate suspense, excitement, and drama.
They also generate higher grade point averages, stronger work habits, and greater self-esteem.
Everybody knows that high school sports give us more value for our entertainment dollar.
They also give us leaders committed to strengthening communities right here in Montana. The true value of playing sports in school can't be measured in wins and losses or dollars and cents. Studies show that participation in sports, along with other extracurricular activities, is one of the best ways to teach leadership, cooperation, accountability, and other invaluable life skills. Don't just stand on the sidelines. Encourage the young people you know to get in the game. When you do, you'll be helping them get ahead in life. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Montana High School Association and the Montana Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Hey, it's Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know about sports. Tune into my weekly segment on Fridays where we talk about, well, I don't really know what we talk about. Sometimes it's sports, sometimes it's athletes. It's usually gossip, but it's always funny.
The Chick Who Doesn't Know About Sports is brought to you each week by the Iron Grizz. The Iron Grizz is hosting weekly wine tastings each Wednesday beginning at 6 p.m., so tune into Tutel Nuanez each Friday to listen to Carolyn.
That's me.
The Chick Who Doesn't Know About Sports, presented each week by the Iron Grizz next to the University of Montana Golf Course.
If you are hurt or disabled, you may be entitled to benefits from an insurance company or Social Security. I'm Chris Helmer, an attorney at Clark Fork Law Offices. Our Missoula firm specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. There are many unknowns when injured or disabled. The other side is fighting hard. You should too. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. The educational records of former University of Montana quarterback Jordan Johnson will remain confidential after the U.S. Supreme Court declined to get involved in the case brought by author John Krakauer. Krakauer made a public records request for the documents in 2014 while writing the book Missoula, Rape in the Justice System in a College Town. The Montana officials denied him access to those documents related to Johnson, who was accused of rape by an acquaintance in 2012.
Krakauer, who's the author of several famous nonfiction books, took officials to court over their denial. A lower court initially ordered Krakauer to be given access to the records, but the Montana State Supreme Court disagreed. Johnson was ultimately acquitted in court, but a university disciplinary process has recommended expelling him. Johnson appealed his expulsion to the State Commissioner of Higher Education, Clay Christian. It wasn't clear what action Christian took, but Johnson remained a student at Montana. Krakauer wanted documents related to Christian's intervention in the situation.
University of Montana senior pitcher Michaela Hood is the Big Sky Pitcher of the Week after her stand-up performance over the weekend at the Razorback Invitational in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Hood helped boost Montana to its first ever victory over a ranked opponent by throwing a 3-hit shutout in UM's 5-0 win over 23rd-ranked Arkansas.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law. Now from the Kurtz Polaris studio, here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Welcome to hour number 2, boys and girls. Lori Payne, the head coach of the Northern Arizona women's basketball team, is currently number 2 in the Big Sky Conference at 12-5. Going to join us here in just a couple of minutes, but happy to be along with you. If you'd like to listen live on the internet, you can certainly do that, 1029ESPN.com. You go to the Listen Live tab. You click on the stream. It's available thanks to Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity. If you'd like to pick up your phone and call, you can do that as well, 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Raggage Brothers RV phone line. If you missed anything in the first hour of the show, give it a listen on the podcast. The Tutel Nuanez podcast is available all the time. It is there thanks to, a whole bunch of people and a couple of businesses, Wingate by Wyndham Hotel and Blackfoot Communications. Rate it, review it, subscribe to that. And also, later on today, episode 7 of Grizz Greats, The Coaching Tree. This one, a big one. Literally, Larry Kristoviak. going to be on that one. We will play a little bit of that for you later on. Coulter, Northern Arizona right now 12-5 in women's basketball. They'll be playing the Lady Grizz in Missoula on Thursday, and then Montana State in what will be a 1v2 matchup, even though Montana State's already sewed up the league title. Going to be an exciting game, an interesting game to watch and see how competitive it is in Bozeman on Saturday. But Northern Arizona has come a long way with Lori Payne as their head coach now in her third year. She's going to join us here in just a couple of minutes.
We've talked a lot about the guys' race, and I think because Montana State has been out in front in the women's basketball side of the Big Sky Conference, they've been out in front from basically the duration of the race.
Right.
And they've already clinched with 2 weekends left, which in itself is ridiculous. And since the league moved to a 20-game schedule, there hasn't been a team that's won 19 games. Yeah. That's in the mix for Montana State with 4 games left. They're 15-1, or 14-1, excuse me. No, they're 15-1. This standings I'm looking at has not been updated. So they're 15-1 overall. But then you look at NAU is alone in second. I think that is the pleasant surprise of the league on either side. I don't think anybody expected NAU to be alone in second, entering the second to last weekend of the year. We got Idaho and Idaho State, who, in my opinion, have the 2 best coaches outside of the state of Montana and maybe the 2 best coaches in the league, period, in John Newley at Idaho and Seton Sobolewski at Idaho State. Idaho's 11-5, Idaho State's 11-6. But all of a sudden here, Montana, the Lady Grizz, who I think we thought had an inside track at this thing, is sitting there tied with Southern Utah at 9-7 for 5th place with several big games in front of them. And the Lady Grizz host NAU on Thursday. That's a huge game. Host Sac State. Sac State's down this year. They're only 6-11 in conference, and Montana handled them earlier this year. So you have to assume that would be a pretty easy win on their home court, especially for senior night for several different Lady Grizz. But then they got to hit the road, and Southern Utah's no longer a shoe-in victory like it used to be. Southern Utah women's basketball used to be not good, but they've also, they eliminated the Lady Grizz from the tournament last year, and that was kind of one of the first steps they've taken towards turning the corner under Tracy Saunders. She's done a great job down there at a place that used to just be a complete dead end. So the Southern Utah-Montana game next week's going to be huge, and then Northern Colorado, they won in Missoula, even though they're only 7-9. They are the reigning league champions, and they already have a win under their belts against Montana. So it's not smooth sailing here down the stretch for Lady Grizz. They still have 4 tough games, and it's by no means just a lock that they're going to get a top 5 seed. That's the goal of the program, but they still have a lot of work to do.
The women's conference or the women's standings are much more stratified than the men's, whereas there's a couple at the top and then everybody in the middle on the men's side. Montana State's up in front of everybody else. Then there's 3 teams, Northern Arizona, Idaho, and Idaho State, who are all within a game of one another, 2 through 4, and presumably they're going to be able to carry in some order those 2 through 4 seeds. So what you have is one final bye slot left, the 5th and final bye slot, which right now Southern Utah and Montana both are 9-7, and even for that, Northern Colorado is 7-9. So they're actually 2 games behind with 4 to go. So even though they do have that win, like you said, they got a lot of uphill sledding. Right now, it's kind of a 2-team. Let's just say it's a 2-team race. Southern Utah and Montana, who are both 9-7 for that 5th and final bye. Last game of the regular season, the Lady Grizz in Cedar City at Southern Utah. I mean, what a way this is setting up in terms of what the matchup could turn out to be in that game.
And Southern Utah's been absolutely lights out at home. I mean, they're 11-2 on their home court, and so in league play they're 6-2. So they've been able to stack wins at home. Certainly,
the good news for the Lady Grizz is that Montana already has a win against Southern Utah, 81-74 in January, early January is the second, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it was the second game of the year,
right? So it'll be a long time. That's the weird thing about this schedule is you would think it would kind of go, you'd go 1 through 10 and then play 1 through 10 again, but this is kind of bookended. So a lot of changes happening, whether it's progression, degression, all that stuff. You want to get better through the course of the year. Well, we'll find out which team has done that. And obviously, like you said, the change of venue, it matters for the Lady Thunderbirds a ton. They play much better at home.
Well, it's like when Montana men played Portland State this two times in the span of 2 weeks. A lot of times you get the same team as you saw 2 weeks ago, or relatively the same. Whereas when you've played 15 conference games since you play each other, the presumption is that both teams will be different, and the hope is that both teams will be better, but that's not always the case. But I interviewed Travis DeCure earlier today. We'll share that interview with you later on this week. But he was talking about NAU. I mean, Brooks DeBishop's one of NAU's best players. He didn't play the first time around. Well, now he's back. And so that is a whole different scout. It's just like when Montana played Portland State in men's. Matt Hauser and Sal Nuhu were out in Missoula, and they were back. So all of a sudden, it's a different team. So you just wonder where the Southern Utah and Montana programs are at when they play the last game of the season, basically bookending the league schedule, 19 games apart. But this is where it comes down to then who's playing well lately, who's getting better lately. And when you look at Southern Utah, they've won 5 out of their last 6 to pull into this 9-7 spot. Rebecca Cardenas is one of the most explosive and exciting players in the Big Sky Conference. So Montana's got their hands full down the stretch here. I mean, NAU coming to Missoula Thursday, it's a huge game. It's a huge game for a lot of different reasons. Lori Payne is a Montana native from Havre. She'll join us here in just a moment. She will surely be ready to roll, coaching in Missoula and actually coaching for something for the first time in her 3 seasons. Yeah. Shannon Swain has a lot to protect here in terms of protecting their home court. The Lady Grizz have been great on their home court with the exception of against Montana State, basically. But can they protect home court? Because they're going to need to, because they have 3 pivotal games down the stretch here out of their last 4.
No question. And I guess the thing, too, when you take a look at Southern Utah, they have a very interesting run here, too. They play Eastern Washington at Eastern Washington. That's been basically a scheduled win this season for anybody playing the Eagles on the women's side. Then they play the University of Idaho, who's a very good team and has still got something to play for. And that's going to be a tough team to beat, on the road. So you could, if you wanted to play the odds, you'd say, well, it's 1-1 right there. And then, of course, the Montana swing, even though it's in Cedar City, they play Montana State in Cedar City on the second to last game of the season. And obviously, MSU's won 11 in a row as the conference champions. Does that something that where they, maybe take it easy or whatever? But that the tendency is to think not. And so, if you're Montana and you're tied with Southern Utah's got 2 games against a couple of the best teams in the conference, and they have 1 game against one of the worst teams in the conference, and then it's that matchup. So can Montana go in there and have an opportunity at the end? The odds say that they will, and it also looks like that game is going to be for a whole lot. I mean, that could be effectively the first playoff game of this run. Want to remind you too, that game is a Friday in Cedar City because the women's tournament the following week starts early. So they move up the last week of games. Instead of being Thursday, Saturday, they're Wednesday, Friday to get, those things out of the way. And so that's an important deal. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Want to tell you now, while we have a second, the bracket challenge is forthcoming, boys and girls. We are so pumped up about this every single year. I mean, what's better than the NCAA tournament? Just about nothing. And, for all of the things that we can, talk about the money and the administration and the, overseeing it of, the NCAA and all that. How fun is it? I mean, it's as fun as it absolutely gets. We got prizes for you. We are going to host the Tutel Nuanez Bracket Challenge at ESPN.com. We will put together the page, the link for that. You can sign up for that, and we'll let you know when. It's not live yet, but it will be live before Selection Sunday. You can get into these leagues and set your, have your entries in, well before you can actually pick teams. So we will set that up for you. But we are excited because both Paradise Falls and Aspen Sound and us here at the station, we're going to have stuff for you. We're going to have huge prize packages for you. You're going to have, you're basically going to have a season pass to Paradise Falls. That's
right. So
good.
First place is going to get $250 voucher from Paradise Falls. Second place is going to get $150. And third place is going to get $100. And then Aspen Sound, same deal, $250, $150, and $100. So we're giving you almost $1,000 in prizes from those two people. So you can either You can go grub, you can go drink, you can go enjoy yourself, Paradise Falls, and then you can go get your windows tinted or go get an internal sound system or maybe get your boat all decked out for summer.
And we're going to have stuff for you as well, but it's a lot of fun, regardless of whether you're 1, 2, 3 to do, and so be on the lookout for that. We go now to the Rankish Brothers RV phone line, and we do now welcome in the head coach of the Northern Arizona women's basketball team, Lori Payne. Lori, thank you so much for being with us. How are you?
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Well, we're certainly happy to have you, and I got a lot that I want to talk to you about. You are in the Montana Hall of Fame, High School Hall of Fame, a Havre native. You go down there. You're the number 2 team in the Big Sky Conference. But what do I care? I went to Pacific Lutheran University. You coached at UPS, so we got problems.
We do, apparently.
I mean,
we just can't get on the same page.
You know, I texted my good friend Justin Lunt, who I know you know well, and I said, what do I need to know about Lori? He said, she's my best friend. You be sweet to her, and she's a hell of a coach. So you got his recommendation, so I guess that's good with me, too.
Well, I appreciate that. Justin's a good one of the best out there.
Lori, you are in your 3rd season at NAU, and you've been building this thing, and here you are in year 3. You're the number 2 team in the Big Sky Conference. What has it been like to see the progression of this team? And now here you are, with just a couple of games left in this season, going to have a bye in the tournament, certainly, and really a team that has something to prove and is looking to make a run in this thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. It's been a challenging couple of years just really trying to build a program from the ground up. But we're sitting in a place where, we finally have the right players in. We finally have the right foundation built. We've been able to change a culture and completely turn it 180. And, I think things are really starting to come to fruition because of all those changes. And we're just excited. We finally have a little bit more of an experienced group. We had been playing with freshmen and sophomores the last couple of years, so they're finally juniors, which, I think they're starting to show their maturity a little bit. And just having been in the program for 2 years, I feel like things are really starting to flow. And we're just excited. We're excited to be in a position where we can contend, and we've been saying it from the beginning. Like, we want to contend for it this year, and if we put in the work, the results will come, and they certainly have as of late.
Lori, hey, Colter Nuanez here. Thanks so much for joining us. I've covered Big Sky women's basketball for about 15 years now, and NAU, they've had a great football program. They've had some success in men's basketball, but it seemed like any building of any sort of tradition or success has eluded NAU. They had the one great year where they went to the NCAA tournament, but other than that, not a lot of tradition there when you inherited this job. What were some of the biggest challenges you initially faced, especially when it comes to building a winning culture?
Yeah, I mean, it was challenging. They hadn't gone since that year, 2006, so it's been a while. And I think, it's tough. It's tough to change a mindset from a team that is just used to losing. I think people get so used to winning just the same as so used to losing. And, to come in and really just try to change that mindset, I was in a pretty good position because it was pretty much a cleaned house. A bunch of kids had transferred that year right before I came, and a bunch of kids had graduated. So I really got to start from scratch. Which meant we had a big freshman class. We had opportunities to go out and recruit a lot of transfer kids, which, you're seeing now. Those kids are all juniors. And, so just, I think changing that mindset and teaching kids how to win and how to expect to win when they haven't, is tough. But, you just keep believing in them and keep making sure they believe in themselves and just keep building and building and building. And, eventually it comes and you get the right kids in and you get the right staff around you. And, we're kind of living in that right now.
How much of coaching is it's a mindset, right? I mean, you've been such a successful player from your time at Havre to Washington, where you're an all-conference player and so on and so forth. When you bring that sort of experience that is that winning mindset, that expectation of winning, to a place that doesn't have that, how do you express that?
Well, it's tough. You have to get the kids buy-in. And like I said, fortunately, a lot of the kids that we inherited, we had, I think, 5 freshmen that year, so they weren't used to losing. They didn't really know. And then we went out and recruited a bunch of winners, kids who had come from winning programs. One of the biggest things, and I'm sure you'll be talking about our different players, but Caitlin Malvar, our starting point guard, she's a kid that ended up transferring with us from Puget Sound, I think, which speaks volumes of just her mentality and what type of program she wanted to be a part of. But, for us, we just needed to go out and recruit kids that knew how to win and really try to change the mindset of those that had been in the program. And you just give them opportunities to have success. And we did a lot of team building, a lot of team bonding, and really getting them to understand how significant culture is to winning a championship.
You yourself, all you did was win during your career as a player, and then at Puget Sound, 130 and 58, won almost 70% of your games. Your last year there, you went 16-0 in league play. So then having to come in at the ground floor like you're talking about and win 33% of the time out, that must have been excruciating for a competitor like yourself.
It was tough. I think we lost more games my first year than I did my last 4 years combined at Puget Sound. But,
Wow.
I knew that what the job was coming in, and I knew that, for me to be able to get into Division I, it was going to probably have to be a program that needed rebuilt. And I felt confident that, having learned so much in my years at Puget Sound, that I could come in and really try to change the culture. And, I knew we had all the pieces. And fortunately, it's led us to this point right now.
Havre, Montana native, that's the number one reason we wanted to have you on the show, because, if you grow up in Havre, you're just inherently tough. You haven't blown off the face of the earth yet with all the wind out there.
Or survive the 60 below weather with a wind chill.
I'll never forget it. I went on a football visit when I was coming out of high school to Montana State Northern, and we get in the truck afterwards. My dad says, do you want to go there? And I said, man, I don't know. And he said, I don't either. I don't know if you could survive. So if you survive a winter in Havre, you are tough for sure. But then your great career at the University of Washington, and now here you are back in the Big Sky Conference, and you'll make a return trip to the state, playing in Missoula on Thursday and playing in Bozeman on Saturday. So what do you anticipate that to be like? I know you've done it before, but now you're coming back with more ammunition, so to speak, with a much more competitive team. So what's it like for you when you play back in Montana?
Yeah, it's great. I have family and friends in the stands. But obviously tough places to play. I grew up watching those teams, being recruited by those teams, knowing how solid of programs they both have. It's an incredibly tough road trip for us, especially right now. It's going to really test our team's resilience and our team's mental toughness because it's a hostile environment, which is the reason why it's so great up there. And, I'm just excited to be back there. I love going home and getting an opportunity to play in front of the crowds that they bring in. It's a cool environment and atmosphere for our kids to be a part of. It really, I think, preps them for tournament play and, potentially postseason play. And so it's a really good time for us to do it. And like I said, I think it'll show us a lot about our team and where we're at heading into the tournament.
With the matchup of Missoula on Thursday, you got a Lady Grizz team that's scrapping for a top 5 seed. You guys are sitting there in second place, but I know you got Idaho and Idaho State nipping at your heels too. So what's your overall scout on the Lady Grizz, and what's just the magnitude of the matchup on Thursday at Dahlberg Arena?
Yeah, they're a solid team. It's so interesting with the Big Sky Conference of how the scheduling is, because we haven't played them in literally 2 months. And so looking back on that game, I'm looking back like, man, I don't even recognize our team, because we're just such a different team, and we've grown so much from there. And same thing for them. Watching their most recent games, it's two teams who are really completely different than when we played back in December. So we're excited about it. They're a solid team. They've got some big wins. They're, playing, I think, at a pretty high level. So it's going to be a very challenging game, but we just need to come in and play the way we're capable of. And if we do that, I feel like we'll have a great opportunity. And obviously Montana State, they're playing at an incredibly high level right now. I think they said that senior night for them, they have like 7 seniors. So, they have such an experienced squad. And so we're going to have to be at our best this weekend to come away with 1 or 2 victories.
Well, Lori, we certainly appreciate you coming on the show. We're looking forward to watching your team play these next couple of nights, and obviously on to Boise as well. We appreciate that very much. Best of luck, and we'll see you soon, okay?
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet. Lori Payne, head coach of the Northern Arizona women's basketball team, again, NAU, playing in the state of Montana this swing Thursday night in Missoula, Saturday in Bozeman. Quick break. On the other side, Cam Strong, captain of the Dartmouth hockey team from Billings, Montana. All the Montana connections, all roads flow through the 406. Talk with Cam Strong right after this.
Seafood lovers, it's time to get cracking at the Montana Club's annual Lobster Fest. Feast on one of our 19 mouth-watering lobster dishes, live Maine lobster, succulent lobster tail, and tantalizing one-of-a-kind lobster specialties. 3 big days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, March 5th through the 7th. It only happens once a year. Don't miss it. See the menu at montanaclub.com. The Montana Club's Lobster Fest on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
At Opportunity Bank of Montana, we know that checking accounts are not one size fits all. Let us introduce you to Opportunity Bank's full suite of checking account products, including personal and business options with no minimum balance and no monthly service fee. Or if earning cash back suits you, Opportunity Reward Checking may be the perfect fit. Need to earn interest? We have those options too. Call or come into Opportunity Bank for a checking account that fits you. Opportunity Bank of Montana, serving Montanans since 1922. Member FDIC.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call. 406-640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates. Hey, Gus, you ever heard of Magic Johnson?
Rings a bell.
One of the greatest basketball superstars of all time played for a man named Judd Heathcote at Michigan State. And guess what? Judd Heathcote started his career at the University of Montana.
Coulter, did you know that 2 former University of Montana head coaches have been head coaches in the NBA and 1 on Team USA?
Isn't that amazing?
And that's why we've created Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcast. Just search Grizz Greats.
It's a phenomenal and historic podcast series proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate.
Coulter, gracious mercy, and thank the heavens, it is time once again for the NC2A men's basketball tournament. It is here, and you and I are back again with the Tutel and Nuanez Bracket Challenge.
We hook people up all over Missoula all the time, but this will be an outstanding contest with entries from all over and your chance to win a variety of great prizes, including a $250 tab at Paradise Falls or $250 worth of equipment from Aspen Sound.
That's right. We got great prize packages for first, second, and third place. Selection Sunday is March 15th, and then you got to get your entries in between then and the start of the tournament on Thursday, the morning of the 19th. Coulter, I'm floating with anticipation and excitement, and of course, you can compare your brackets to Coulter's and mine and try and beat the dopes on the radio. Won't that be satisfying?
More than $1,000 worth of gifts we'll be giving to you, so stay tuned to Tutel Nuanez 4 to 6 p.m. each weekday for details on the ESPN Missoula Bracket Challenge, brought to you in part by Paradise Falls and Aspen Sound.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. The educational records of former University of Montana quarterback Jordan Johnson will remain confidential after the U.S. Supreme Court declined to get involved in the case brought by author John Krakauer. Krakauer, who wrote the book, who made a public records request for documents in 2014 while writing the book Missoula, Rape and the Justice System in a College Town. But Montana officials denied him access to those documents related to Johnson, who was accused of sexual assault by an acquaintance in 2012.
Krakauer, who's the author of several famous nonfiction books, took officials to court over their denial. The lower court initially ordered Krakauer be given access to the records, but the Montana Supreme Court disagreed. Johnson was ultimately acquitted in the court of law, but a university disciplinary process had recommended expelling him. Johnson appealed his expulsion to the State Commissioner of Higher Education, Clay Christian. It wasn't clear what action Christian took, but Johnson remained a student at Montana. Krakauer wanted documents related to that intervention by Christian.
University of Montana senior pitcher Michaela Hood is the Big Sky picture of the week after her standout performance over the weekend at the Razorback Invitational in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Hood helped boost Montana to its first victory over a ranked opponent in school history by throwing a 3-hit shutout in UM's 5-0 win over the 23rd-ranked Razorbacks.
And finally, in high school basketball, champions claimed across all the small schools in the state last weekend.
He's an old hippie and he don't know what to do. Should he hang on to the old? Should he grab on to the new? He's an old hippie, this new life is just a bust. He ain't trying to change nobody, he's just trying real hard to adjust.
Well, good evening. Rolling downhill towards the end of a Tuesday night. Appreciate you being with us. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. If you want to find us on the social medias, go right ahead. At Gus Tutel on Twitter, at Skyline Sports MT, and at 102.9 ESPN as well. And we have been looking to find athletes, people who are playing sports at a high level around the nation with ties to the state of Montana. And we're happy to be joined by one such individual right now, the captain of the Dartmouth hockey team from Billings, Montana, Cam Strong. Cam, thanks so much for being with us. How are you doing?
Hey, guys, I'm doing very well. It's a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're certainly happy to have you here. We appreciate it very much. I find it interesting in Missoula, and I think in Montana at large right now, that hockey is growing, especially in a recreational level. But when you talk about hockey as a sport that's played in a state, even though Montana is cold and in some places flat, it's not like it is in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan, right? How did you get into hockey coming from Billings?
Right, yeah, you're exactly right about that. I grew up playing in Billings, just playing A hockey there, and just kind of got into it from my parents. They took me to the Billings Bulls games when I was younger. Always enjoyed going to those, and then got the opportunity to start playing hockey at about 5 years old, and just loved it. And you're right, hockey's definitely bigger in other states, and sometimes you don't really realize that until you get out and see that. And I was fortunate enough to be able to, travel up to Canada and even across the U.S. to play hockey when I was younger. So definitely opened up my eyes. It kind of puts things in perspective that, there's higher levels out there, and that's what kind of put that in my mind that I want to maybe, shoot for the stars here and try to play at the highest level of college hockey.
What does it take? I mean, how much of an investment, both just financially as well as physically, did it take for you to get seen and get recruited at a high level like Dartmouth, to kind of be one of the guys that made it out of the state to play hockey at a high level?
Right, yeah, it takes a ton of sacrifice, that's for sure. I set my mind to it when I was probably 10, 12 years old, between those ages, that I really wanted to do this. So I really committed my entire life to it. And had a ton of support from my family, and that was a big thing. Is my mom, my dad, my sisters, and all my family just supported me all the way. Because I had to leave home at a young age. I actually left at 14 years old the first time I left to play hockey out of state, and that wasn't easy on me or them. But they definitely supported me through that, and just a lot of hard work, dedication. There's ups and downs through it all. So it's just being able to kind of persevere through the hard times and, enjoy the good moments. And, I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Cam Strong joining us. He's an alternate captain for the Dartmouth hockey team. And, I'm interested in this, too, because, obviously the Ivy League has really good hockey in it, nationally elite hockey, but also, as I understand it, nationally elite academics as well. What's it like to be playing hockey and doing that, but also with that sort of academic rigor that's demanded of you?
Absolutely, yeah. It's very difficult. Balancing, athletics and academics is never an easy challenge, but when it's at a, Ivy League school like this, and the Division I level of athletics, it's very tough. It's very demanding every day, and I think for the good part of my first 2 years here, it was just learning how to optimally deliver on those competing commitments, So, but I think I've been able to do that and been able to thrive here. It's been fun. But, I had my eyes on the Ivy League before I was even considering playing hockey in college. I just, I wanted to go to a good school, get a great education. I felt I could do it. And then when I was doing my research, I did see that, there's some good high-level hockey teams in the Ivy League. Harvard and Yale and Cornell, they're always top teams every year. We've had some success, too. So I thought it'd be a great spot to kind of get the best of both worlds there with hockey and academics.
What is the most challenging part about being a student-athlete at an Ivy League school?
Kind of just like I said, it's just balancing everything, because a lot of times you have conflicts, and that's never easy, having to choose between two things. And, they always say that academics comes first, and that's usually the case. But, you often miss days of class for being on the road for games. Nothing you can do about that, but you have to just kind of work it out with the professors, change the schedule a bit. So I think that's probably the hardest thing. And definitely getting sleep is tough, too.
No doubt. Well, do I have this right? You're the first guy from Montana to play hockey at Dartmouth. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
So does that kind of, what do your teammates think of that? Because, as guys, Ryan and I both grew up in Montana, and as we've grown up and spread our wings and gone other places and then returned home to Montana, when you're from Montana, if people have never been here before, they treat you like it's some sort of novelty, like you're from a foreign country or something like that. Do you take great pride in being from Montana? What's it been like living on the East Coast like you do, having grown up in the Treasure State?
Yeah, I take a ton of pride in it, and the guys on my team definitely. I don't think any of them played with anybody from Montana before they got here. You know, everyone's kind of from the Northeast or up in Canada, or the Midwest. You know, so you don't see Montana a lot, and they were definitely, they definitely weren't expecting that, but they've been very welcoming, and it's kind of always been like that. And when I was playing junior hockey, I was in Kansas. That was different for me, and playing with players from Michigan and Minnesota and Massachusetts, stuff like that. So, but it's been just a great experience, like getting to move further and further east, getting out, seeing the country, and it's been a great experience.
Cam Strong joining us. He's captain on the Dartmouth hockey team. They're 12-11-4 on the season right now, playing Union on Friday on ESPN+. Now, I'm going to just display my ignorance here and ask you this question, but I'm okay with that. You played a lot as a freshman. In fact, they get every game as a freshman at Dartmouth, and I think we're the Rookie of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, in a couple of years back. Does that happen normally, or is hockey still a sport in college where it's normally maybe a red shirt, you take a couple of years before you're seeing a lot of ice time? Like, how does the progression work out as usual?
I wouldn't say there's a typical progression. It kind of depends, and it varies really, but for me, it was just, I knew it was going to be an excellent opportunity to play my freshman year because they were bringing in a big class. They graduated a big class before us, so we knew there'd be opportunities to play. And, I was fortunate enough to play almost every game. And, in hockey, you don't typically see red shirts. That's pretty much why they have junior hockey, which is for the ages like 18 to 20, where you can take some gap years and develop your game a bit, which is what I did. So you're typically ready to go when you get there, and then it's just a matter of earning the spot on the roster. And we've seen quite a bit of freshmen make big impacts in our lineup in my 4 years here. So it's awesome. It's actually awesome. I've gotten to play over 100 games, so it's been great.
Cam, last thing for you. What are you studying at Dartmouth? You're a senior now. What are you into?
Well, I'm studying engineering sciences. I'm getting a cross-disciplinary degree in that field. It's been very interesting. For the first 2 years, I was just working on the prereqs, and I wasn't sure I was going to be cut out for it. But once I got into the core courses of the engineering major, I've really enjoyed it, and I've kind of had a mechanical engineering focus. So that could be an option for me down the road to pursue that career. But it's just all the classes here are so interesting, and it's been amazing to have this opportunity to go here.
Well, hockey's all about angles, so I assume that's helpful at some level. 38 degrees. That's what I got to shoot at here, and then you put the biscuit in the basket, as they say. Have you heard that term before? I don't want to do too much hockey speak to you.
Oh, you bet. Yeah.
Cam, hey man, we really appreciate you being here. This was fun to have you on. Keep going. Congratulations on all the things you've done already, and enjoy this last run here, your senior season at Dartmouth and beyond. Okay.
All right, thanks a lot. Will do, guys. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Cam Strong, Dartmouth hockey, from Billings to the captain of the club over there at Dartmouth. Pretty amazing. Cornell, by the way, is the number 2 team in the nation right now. We're talking about you talk about football, and it's SEC, Big Ten, basketball. I don't know, maybe the ACC, Big Ten, hockey, whatever North Dakota's in. And the Ivy League, and Boston College, that's the list, man, and the Big Ten. Right. The Big Ten's pretty much good for it, regardless of the sport.
Well, yeah,
maybe not diving.
Back to the whole money element, of course, the Big Ten.
They're overrated in baseball.
There you go.
They are overrated.
There you go,
true.
David. Tell them. Put them in their place. Well, that was fun, man. What a great kid, and fun to talk to him. And of course, it's an interdisciplinary degree. That's what you do. Multiple things: poetry, engineering, and a little bit of art. Mix it all in there and see what you get. I
wonder if he's crossed paths with anybody else in Montana. I should have asked him that, because there actually has been. I shouldn't say like a pipeline, but I know 3 guys that are around my age group that went to Bozeman High that then went to Dartmouth. All 3 of them played football.
Well, so
I know that like schools like the Ivy Leagues, they actually like to recruit from rural places like Montana, because they like to have this rich and all-encompassing campus culture, right? And adding, people from Big Sky country seems like sort of a novelty.
Well, it's also the converse because our dear friend Tucker Sargent grew up across the street from Dartmouth and went to the University of Montana.
Right.
Wagons West.
No
Boys
doubt.
and girls, Larry Kristoviak, episode 7 of Grizz Greats, The Coaching Tree. It's out tonight. You're going to hear a little piece of it right after this. Mildenberger Motors in Hamilton, family-owned for 65 years. Best prices on new and used cars and trucks only at Mildenberger Motors.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Whether you're shopping for your first home, need something bigger, or downsizing for retirement, you need a mortgage. Talk to the experts at Farmers State Bank or start the application process online at farmersebank.com. Our mortgage lenders have many options to help you into the home of your dreams, from conventional to in-house, VA, rural development, and more. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
College basketball madness is happening again, and there's only one place in town to catch all the games, the Desperado. Catch every buzzer beater, every Cinderella story, and every upset on the Despero's 32 TVs, while getting your fill of the best hot wings Missoula has to offer, of course. Bracket busted? The Despo's got you covered there too, with cold drinks by the pint or pitcher. The Despo is your headquarters for NCAA basketball, NHL, and NASCAR too. The Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell, across from the Y.
Grizz Greats, The Coaching Tree podcast, episode 7 is out now, featuring a University of Montana legend, Larry Kristoviak. Coulter, Coach Kristoviak had one of the great playing careers at the University of Montana and then returned to his alma mater to be the head coach for 2 seasons in 04 and 05 and 05 and 06, went to the NC2A tournament both seasons, and in his second and final season at UM, they became the last team in the Big Sky Conference to win an NC2A tournament game.
We call this the Grizz Greats, and he is one of the greatest Grizz of them all. Larry Kristoviak, an in-state product who went to high school in Missoula, was the only 3-time MVP in the history of Montana basketball and the only player to ever score 2,000 points and grab 1,000 rebounds in his decorated career. A phenomenal career for Larry Kristoviak that continues to this day at the University of Utah.
Just search Grizz Greats wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and enjoy the entire series of Grizz Greats, available thanks to Blackfoot Communications, Stockman's Bar, and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate.
Turn your whiskers into wishes. Make-A-Wish Montana is holding their annual No Razor fundraiser. 60 Montana children with critical illnesses are waiting for their one true wish to be granted. Your magnificent mane can help raise money that can help kids that have a wish and desperately need for that wish to come true. Fun, easy, and for the kids. There will be prizes for top fundraisers, events throughout the state, and one fuzzy contestant will walk home as the best beard in Montana. Register your beard, real or fake, at montanabeardies.com. Beard on, Montana.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Said he's going back to find a simpler place and time.
Grizz Greats, episode 7, Larry Kristoviak. Going to be out here shortly, and we're going to play some of it for you right now. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. If you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. The podcast is available all the time. You go to Tutel and Nuanez podcast, you search it out, rate it, review it. Appreciate that. It's brought to us by Blackfoot Communications and the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. It is time now, as we do each Tuesday evening. Tuesday's the day we release new episodes of Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast, which, again, you can find anywhere you get your podcast. Just search Grizz Greats, subscribe to it, then you don't have to go search it. It'll just come straight to you. This has been a ton of fun. These have been getting, more and more listens and traction as we've gone here, and I think it's just going to continue. And tonight we release our episode 7 with Larry Kristoviak, who is the most accomplished player and probably the most accomplished coach outside of like Judd Heathcote, understandably Mike Montgomery from a coaching standpoint, but when you take it all in, I mean, to go on to have an outstanding and lengthy NBA career as a player, to go from the University of Montana where he coached for only 2 seasons, but then straight to head coach in the NBA, and he's the only other guy other than Mike Montgomery to end up having head coaching experience at the NBA level. And now, again, in his 8th or 9th season at Utah.
9th season, yeah.
9th season with the Utes. Tremendous. And so we really appreciate him taking the time. I mean, he's in the heart of his career and this, in basketball season and stuff. So taking the time out to do this with us. But a guy who turned the corner, and for a guy who never played in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
To come back as a head coach and go both seasons and also be the head coach of the last team, not just from Montana, but from the conference, to win a tournament game, that was something of a redemption story from a basketball perspective there with Coach Krystkowiak, Coulter.
I was over in Bozeman this last weekend. I went to the Montana State Athletics Hall of Fame inductions, and the last inductee was the 1985, 86, 86, 87 Bobcats. That group of guys, they were back-to-back Big Sky Conference champions. They went to the NCAA tournament. And you got to remember, at Montana State, they've only been to the NCAA tournament twice in the history of their program. So making it that year in 1986 was a gigantic accomplishment. But they talked extensively about their record against the Grizzlies. I think that group of guys went 6-0 against Montana. And I think Stu Starner had a little run where during his time, he won, I think, 8 out of 10 or 8 out of 11. But those guys, they all talked, when I talked to them afterwards, they all talked about how they had such huge goals to take down Larry Krystkowiak. That was the goal. He was the monster of the league, the 3-time MVP, the dude. And they were able to get past him. And Krystkowiak talked all about how much that had motivated him throughout his career. And it's so rare to be the player who's individually outstanding at a school and then get to come back years later and find your redemption, get a second chance as a head coach, especially because at the moment, I don't think anybody expected Larry Krystkowiak to ever come back to Montana. He'd played in the NBA. It seemed like he was just going to be an NBA lifer. And then he comes back to Missoula and not only leads Montana to back-to-back NCAA tournaments and gets that monkey off his back, but also wins a tournament game. What a story of redemption for a Missoula kid.
Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast, is brought to us by Mike Bryan, Gary Bryan, and Mike Nugent at Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate. By Stockman's Bar, proudly supporting Montana basketball for over 50 years, and by Blackfoot Communications. Blackfoot is building a high-capacity fiber network to connect businesses and homes to the world. Visit goblackfoot.com for more information. Just to wet your whistle, here's a little piece from our conversation, Grizz Greats, with Larry Krystkowiak.
Larry, when you finish playing, you go into coaching and you end up at the University of Montana, and maybe that seems obvious as a player there, but you'd been away for quite a while. First of all, what was the connection that you got to get on Don Holt's staff? And then secondly, why was it that coaching, which makes sense coming out of a playing career, but you could have done anything, so what was it about coaching that said, yeah, I want to stay in the game and do this at the collegiate level?
At least for me, I went back to Montana, finished my degree, and I thought, like I was going to get it, into the real world. Got real estate license. I did an internship at Merrill Lynch. And a couple things I was really misled with is you think you're going to use your connections in real estate and financial advising. Now I'm sitting here saying, wait a minute, what in the world would make you think that your friends are going to trust you with their money or let you buy a house for them? That's just...
It's a very good question, Larry. Yes.
Needless to say, it didn't pan out real well. And then what happens is after you get away for a little while, my heart kept tugging me back to what I knew and what I was passionate about. And I missed being in a locker room. I missed talking the game. And it really is the thing that I had the most knowledge about and that I missed the most. And so you reach out to everybody you know in the coaching business, and you kind of expect somebody to hire you. And then you realize there's a lot of guys that think they should be hired, but you got to prove up. You got to be willing to work and sacrifice some things. And so the best advice I got, and like it happens a lot, is, hey, you'll have an opportunity at your alma mater to go back, and I think I made $12,000 in those 2 years working under Holt. So you're proving that you're not in it for the money. we had some fun teams at Montana, and you get back on the court, and that's what you need on your resume. You know, you need to prove if you want to move up the coaching ladder that you're willing to jump in, and did that for a few years and worked out at Old Dominion for a year under Blaine. And I think one of the biggest breaks I got was Bill Eilert, who was the owner of the Idaho Stampede. He called and offered me the head coaching job of the CBA team in Boise, and that was the year we made it to the championship game that year, and then they needed a head coach at Montana, and one of the prerequisites was somebody with head coaching experience. And if I hadn't had that 1 year of head coaching experience in the CBA under my belt, I'm not sure that Marie Porter, who was the interim AD at the time, would have ever hired me. So, you know, the Lord works in mysterious ways, and you kind of bounce around and chase your dream, and that's where I got that opportunity.
Tell us about your time coaching under Don Holst and Blaine Taylor. What did you learn from those two guys?
There wasn't anything specific. It was, again, it was all that, you know, Blaine played for money, and there weren't any secrets. It wasn't like, you know, we kind of had our own language, but that was the way we did things. That, you know, the plays and how you played defense, played offense, kind of your core, and that was more of the same with all those guys. That's what each of those guys learned from somebody else, and that's what I was learning from them. You know, I did have the advantage of playing for some of that too, so it just seemed really natural to me, you know. And sometimes as an assistant coach, you can be the good cop. That was one thing, is you build a relationship that's probably a little bit closer than head coach has a little more responsibility and pressure. And so that's what I tried to provide for both those guys when I worked with them.
There you go. A little piece from Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree Podcast, Episode 7 with Larry Krystowiak. Tremendously generous with his time. Again, especially we've talked to a lot of coaches who were retired and kind of doing other things, and now we're getting into the range of coaches who are still actively coaching, and so we certainly appreciate and recognize the time they carved out for us. But great to talk to him, and again, that episode I think going to be a hugely intriguing one and interesting one, because Larry's story is... Everybody's story is more than, quote, just a basketball story, but for Larry in particular, the circumstances that he came from as a youngster, as a kid that brought him to Missoula originally to live with other kind of family members and worked through it, and now, you know, the father of 5 with he and his wife in Salt Lake City. I mean, it's just it's awesome, man, and also an unbelievable basketball guy.
All of these interviews have been so great, but no one has stories about Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan. Right. First-hand stories.
Yes,
no one has those.
Well, so there I was on the block with Shaq. Oh, really? How'd that go?
I mean, it's amazing.
Right.
These guys from Shelby, Montana.
Right.
It's amazing. But it was great to...
He tells a story in here, okay, just to tease, about somebody coming from behind him and picking him up. And he goes, guys, that doesn't happen to me very often. He's a giant. And it was Shaq at an airport who saw him and came and, like, grabbed him and, you know, whipped him around or whatever. It's unbelievable.
This whole series has been so nostalgic for me for a lot of different reasons. I mean, I first really got into college hoops in the late 90s when Don Holst had it going a little bit. And I remember that team that won the tournament vividly. But I also remember, you heard Krystowiak talk about there was so much, I don't want to say controversy, but there was such a huge challenge in what to do there wasn't multi-year contracts in Montana yet.
Yeah.
That was a huge issue for Pat Kennedy, and he talked about that in his episode. Then when they went outside of the tree, all of a sudden it was a disaster, and then everybody said, okay, well, we can't go outside of the tree, but we also can't hire anybody who's never been a head coach before, and it just so happened that Larry Krystowiak had been a head coach for 1 year.
Yeah.
But it made it so that it was okay for the people that were saying that had to be a requirement, and who knows what would have happened to the University of Montana if Larry K. wouldn't have come back, but it is the turning point, and now here we are, 7 tournament appearances in 14 years. Krystowiak's the one that started it, or restarted it, I should say.
Right. Grizz Greats Coaching Tree Podcast, Episode 7 out now. It's brought to us by Blackfoot Communications. Blackfoot is building a high-capacity fiber network to connect businesses and homes to the world. Visit goblackfoot.com for more information. Also brought to us by Mike Nugent, Mike Bryan, and Gary Bryan of Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate, and Stockman's Bar. Mike Larson down there at Stocks, proud supporters of Montana basketball for over 50 years. I'm looking forward to re-listening to this one, man. They've all been fun to do again, but this one in particular I think is going to be, I'll get a kick out of it, and our thanks to Coach Krastoviak again. Boys and girls, enjoy your Tuesday evening. We'll see you tomorrow. Tutel Nuanez, ESPN Radio.
So rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel, rock me.
Seafood lovers, it's time to get